Good morning. This is Dr. David A. Padgett. Today is Monday, March 22nd. This is the World Regional Geography course 1010, section 98B, spring semester 2021. So we have a few things to get done today. First will be just some basic housekeeping notes about the course and midterm grades. Next, I'm going to talk about the article reviews. I'm going to look at a couple of them. I'm assuming that they're going to improve and get better as we uh, move throughout the course. And that is my assumption. And then we will talk about this week's uh, reading assignment as we move into Unit C. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about a couple of housekeeping issues as we get started. So here we are today, getting started. Last week we had a discussion about midterm grades. There was a little bit of confusion. So some people assumed that their Unit A exam score was or is their midterm grade score for the entire class. That's not the case. That's just your grade for the Unit A exam. Your midterm grade, the letter grade, is at my TSU. Now, in eLearn, I can switch to student view. I can't do that in my TSU. So you'll have to navigate to your midterm grade. If you just want to know what your midterm grade is, just email me, call, and I'll tell you what it is. Okay. If you don't want to go through all that, I know it's not the easiest system to navigate. Okay. That's midterm grades. Um, Next, also in terms of let me just move on to article reviews. No need in going back and forth with that. Most of you all are doing okay. You either have an A, B, or C in midterm. If you have another grade other than A, B, or C, please either get in touch with me or just start doing the work. So I'm going to take a look next at the article reviews. So I'm going to stop my share for a moment and get into the Dropbox. And we did this last week, but I just want to make sure that. Well, I see that we still don't have a lot of people completing article reviews, and you really should do that because it's a major portion of your grade. It's not a difficult assignment. Let's see what we have here. Good. Okay. Let's start off with Mullins, and we'll take a look at this just for constructive criticism, always with the goal of being better today than we were yesterday. So just take this as constructive criticism. Okay, so here's article number 3. Good. Her name, article number, major, date. Good. She has her citation there. Looks like pretty decent formatting with the link to the article. Article is Decolonizing Technology and Political Ecology Futures. Okay, let's see, population, cotton gin, okay, population. Okay, so then she goes into a deeper part of the summary, saying that she chose the article because it has both a political and geographical focus. Very good to clarify that. So if you have an article that doesn't speak directly to the topic or the field of geography, uh, then adding some content in your essay that connects the article to geography will go a long way towards making your um, article review uh, an excellent piece of work. Okay, so that's good there. Textbook reference. The only thing I would add here would be to say specifically Bradshaw textbook or the entire title of the textbook. Um, because again, you're not writing this to me, just a general audience who has no idea section 12.5 of what. Okay, so you need to that's just a little point of information, a little constructive criticism. But other than that, it's a good reference describing the difference between uh, wealthy and poor sectors of cities, which speaks directly to what this article describes in part. I'd probably have to actually read the article to get a better idea. Good word there, degrowth. I didn't know that was a word, but apparently it is. Population, technology, social. I think another keyword might be political ecology, would be another keyword for this article. And there's no really specific geographical location that I can identify without reading the article. So that's the only other thing that I would add as a keyword would be political ecology, or political geography might be another good keyword. Let's see what else. Oh, the one thing that is missing is a link to an internship or job opportunity or scholarship opportunity that is related to the article and political science. So that's the only thing that I would add here. Other than that, satisfactory job in terms of content, good uh, good summary of the article, and a good article selection. Let's take a look at another one. Let's see, we've got Brooks here. And let's download this one. And then I'll come back to the screen share. Okay, here's Bria Brooks. Article 3, name, date, major, well done. Citation. Let's see here. Well, if this article was online, doesn't look like it was. But if it's a hard copy, remember to take a photograph of the title page of your article that includes the author, the title, and whatever other information is included with the source. If this is a hard copy source, if it is not a hard copy source, then of course you would include the link to the article in the citation. So let's say, so she's in infographic design is a visualization of geography learning media. Good article choice. I would like to actually read it perhaps, but I can't because there's no link here. So just remember that next time. Okay, infographics. And she goes on. Pretty good summary, good thorough summary, clearly describes the article in detail. Learning. Yes, and then she relates the article to her career goals. That's fine, but we need to have a link to an internship or a job opportunity that's related to this article and the student's career plans or major. That's missing. Also missing is a reference to the textbook that is related to the article itself. So those two things are missing here. Keywords. See, I would probably add as a keyword maybe she has infographics. Yeah, she does have that. Maybe data visualization would be another keyword. I would have to actually read the article to get a better idea. So a couple of things missing here. Just remember that for next time. The next article review is due tonight at 11:30. So be aware of that there is an opportunity to get started on those. So I noticed that the overwhelming majority of the class has not done any article reviews. Please start today. Even if you start today, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's still a chance to get 7 of them done if you start today. You should at least get 60 points out of that. And that will go a long way towards your grade. 60 points is a letter grade difference. That's how many points that is. You could take yourself from a C to a B or B to an A or not, if you don't do the article reviews. So please get them done. They're not difficult to do. It just takes a little time. It's not rocket science. I know it's a little bit tedious, but if you want to do quality work, you just have to deal with tedium. That's just it is what it is. I can't make it any different than that. Just get them done, get the points, give yourself a chance to get a higher grade. Give yourself a chance to get a higher grade. I mean, if anybody should want to give you a chance, it's you. So be sure to get that done. So I'm not going to dwell on these article reviews much longer. Just remember, just please, I can't implore upon you any more than I have thus far that you really need to get these article reviews done. Again, article review 4 is due tonight, 11:30 p.m. And then there's a grace period for lateness. So there's plenty of time to get article review 4 done and continue to get them done so that you will keep up whatever midterm grade you got or improve upon whatever midterm grade you got. So if you, for instance, have a B at midterm and somehow have done no article reviews and have a B, or whatever grade you have at midterm, you can improve upon it by getting these article reviews done. Do them well. That's guaranteed. No question. Don't rely upon the quizzes as a way to improve your grade. And we saw what happened with the Unit A exam. We hopefully are getting an idea of what's expected with these research quizzes. So that's the perfect time to segue into research quiz 2, which is due on Friday. Actually, for this class, it'll be due at 12:30 p.m., I believe. So I will make that change. So I'm going to go to student view. And here is research quiz 2. And it's the same process as the first research quiz, PDF. Here, you have your sources, answer the questions, and here's an answer sheet. Here's a letter for your answer, explanation. And again, please be detailed with your explanation. Put as much detail as possible. The, the cells are formatted to wrap text. Type as much in here as you like to explain your answer. And in your reference, again, should come from those very specific sources provided with the class. But again, you're not answering to me. So don't put Bradshaw textbook as your reference source. You have to be more specific than that. What page, which figure, be more specific than that. Be very specific. If you got the answer from something that I said during lecture, don't put video. What date of the video? What's the timestamp? Exactly what did Dr. Padgett say? That will solidify your answer. And I think I showed you last week in a demonstration how you could have the answer wrong. But if you've got a good explanation and a solid reference source, you can get 2 out of 3 points for that, as opposed to no points. Okay, so and then that happens. Sometimes you can go right to where that correct answer is, and for whatever reason, not get it correct. But I will give you credit for your process. Did you at least engage in a process that should have taken you to the correct answer? So I'm looking at your effort. How much effort are you putting into finding the right answer? I don't want to see you guessing or just thinking up something with some meaningless information. I want to know what brought you to this answer. And you might get it wrong, but at least you put in the work. That's what I'm looking for. Again, if you have questions about the quiz, please let me know. A lot of you all did a really good job. When you got confused, you emailed me right away. Dr. Padgett, I'm confused about this question on the quiz, that question on the quiz. What does this mean? What does that mean? Those are valid questions. Ask them during the quiz before you turn it in, and you might get yourself more points. But if you don't ask, I can't help you. Okay, so I can only help you if you ask me. The saying, closed mouths don't get fed? That's very true here. Okay, so just ask the question. That's why I'm here. Okay, so get to work on this quiz. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so that brings us to our next objective for the day, and that is to introduce you to Unit C, Latin America Population Geography, which is covered with these various reading assignments. You should take a look at Chapter 2, pages 43 to 50, in reference to today's lecture, and you should also explore Chapter 11, pages 287 to 296, and you will see some common vocabulary that is will be discussed over the next couple of days. The quiz for the third quiz or research quiz focusing upon Unit C, Latin America Population Geography, will be next week. You'll start that quiz next Monday. This week, you're working on Unit B quiz. And while I'm mentioning that, for the Unit B quiz, you'll use the Unit B sources, the reading assignments, and specifically for this week, the reading assignment is Latin America Population Geography and the lecture recordings from associated with Unit B that we did on the 8th, 10th, 15th, and 17th. And so you should refer to those recordings and the reading assignment for this week's quiz. Okay. Okay. So let's get into the reading assignment for this week, Latin America population geography, and let's kind of slow there. And let's start off with the Population Reference Bureau data sheet. And so this is the perfect segue. As you remember, we left off with population geography of North America. So we will begin with population geography of Latin America and the Caribbean for this new unit. Going right into the world population data sheet. As we segue from one to another, let's take a look at the two regions that we are exploring or have explored. So here's the United States and Canada. And also we see beneath that Latin America and the Caribbean. So we're going to look at some critical data for both regions in terms of population. So the first place we'll look is at the crude birth rate. That's the number of births per 1,000 people in the population, and the crude death rate. So if you notice, focusing on the United States, the birth rate is 12 per 1,000, and the death rate is 9 per 1,000, pretty close together. Now, if we shift just to the general region of Latin America and the Caribbean, their birth rate is slightly higher than ours, 16 per 1,000, and the death rate is lower. Now, the higher birth rate, you're probably aware of that, or you should be. One of the things that contributes to a higher birth rate in Latin America is culture. And specifically within our cultures, we include religion. So religion is part of our culture, different religions. The dominant religious faith in Latin America is Catholicism. Thus, it's called Latin America. For those of you who happen to follow the Catholic faith, you know that there's Latin in your ceremonies and practices. So therefore, Latin America, that's where it comes from, the relationship between culture and religion. And we know that that in general, Catholics do not like to interfere with the procreation process, either through birth control and definitely not through abortion. And so where we have populations that are predominantly Catholic, we see higher birth rates just because of that fact. So easy to explain the higher birth rates, but what about the lower death rate? So that might be cause to confuse us, because one might assume that here in the United States, we have health clinics everywhere. We have such easy and significant access to healthcare in this country compared to other countries, that we would assume that we wouldn't have a higher death rate. But it's a fact. So the question is, how can we look at population structure to explain this difference, or this curious fact? Well, we'll go to the CIA World Factbook here. And well, apparently the CIA World Factbook has changed its link again. It's the CIA. It might want to be hiding out, so I will go and find the new link here, fix that link later on. So here's the CIA World Factbook. And so if we go to explore countries here, and let's say if we go to the United States, take a look at our population graph. So here's the population pyramid for the United States. And if you notice, if we look at the cohorts age 60 and older, notice that there's a substantial portion of the population age 60 and older. Lots, millions of people of that age in the United States. So that large portion of the population living into older age is indicative, certainly indicative of our uh, superior or easily and readily available healthcare um, facilities and outlets, medicines, also our diet, also to some degree is can explain why we have people living to older ages. But let's go back to the World Fact Book and let's look at a country in Latin America. Uh, let's say Honduras. Let's look at Honduras, and then let's look at Honduras's population pyramid, and you'll see that there is quite a difference, noticeable difference. Notice as we get into the higher or older age groups, we don't see the proportion of people being as high as it was from the United States. Uh, so, still, you might think, well, wait a minute, wouldn't that be indicative of a higher death rate if we don't see as many older people not even getting into the older age groups? But look at the pyramid again. The bulk of the population, maybe as much as 40 or 50% of the population, are people who are younger than 20 years of age. That age group doesn't have a high death rate. You know, when you're young, your immune system works. If you remember with COVID-19, the death rate for children 14 years of age and younger was statistically zero. The death rate for individuals 65 years of age and older from coronavirus was 80% for those older age groups versus 0% for children. Thankfully so. But what we're looking at here is the fact that if we have a population in the United States shown here that has more older people, they are going to be more likely to die. So because we have an older population, we have a higher death rate in the United States. There's some things that all the medicine in the world can't cure, right? Our life expectancy, we don't have people living forever right now. Okay, we've extended life to some degree, but people aren't living to 500 years of age. That's not happening. So we have a limit on our life expectancy here that cannot be changed no matter what. People get older, they're more likely to die of whatever, natural causes or whatever. Okay, so we see that there's a significant difference between there's Honduras, US, Honduras, US. Very different population structures, much younger population here that is representative of the higher birth rates. Let's go to the next variable, rate of natural increase, and notice that in the United States, our rate of natural increase is only 0.3%. Relatively slow rate of growth, and there are a variety of reasons for that. Particularly, the greatest reason is that women are entering the workforce in much much larger numbers than in the past. And so, as women have more, greater economic and educational opportunities, they tend to put off having children longer. Obviously, birth control, there are all kinds of new birth control products out there, primarily almost entirely aimed at women. And so we see that reflected in this lower rate of natural increase. If we look at Latin America and the Caribbean in general, we see that that rate of natural increase is 1%, which, if you remember from last week, that translates into a 70-year doubling time. That's not a lot of time. 70 years seems if it's a long time, but really, it's not a lot of time. If you think about it, they need twice as much water, twice as much medicine or healthcare facilities available, twice as many schools in 70 years. That's not a lot. It's a lot of time, but then really it's not. Okay. So, um, if we look at Latin America and the Caribbean as a whole, we see that their rate of natural increase is 1%, significantly higher than the United States. If you look at some of the countries there, such as Nicaragua, Honduras, let's look at Nicaragua, if we will. If we go to the calculator and let's see, they are at 1.8. So we take 70 divided by 1.8. 38-year doubling time for Nicaragua. And we'll learn later on that Nicaragua is not exactly one of the wealthiest countries. In fact, let's go into the CIA World Fact Book, countries in Nicaragua. Let's look at Nicaragua's economy. So Nicaragua's economy is their gross domestic product per capita is $5,407 per person. Let's compare that to the United States. United States has a GDP per capita, which is about the same as the GNI PPP per person in your textbook. So let's see, it's about $62,530 per person. That's what, probably 12 times that same figure for Guatemala, for Nicaragua, excuse me. And so you can see that we have much greater wealth here than Nicaragua, but yet in 38 years, they have the possibility of having twice as many people in their country in 38 years. That's not a lot of time. Not a lot of time. And that's why these studies are so important. How do we solve that? Not easy. Okay, next let's look at the total fertility rate. So remember that fertility rate is the number of children born per woman, average number of children born per woman within a country or place during the woman's primary reproductive years. And so if we look at the United States again, our figure is 1.7. So in the United States, the average woman during her primary reproductive years has 1.7 children. That is below zero population growth, if you remember. Zero population growth, ZPG, is 2.1. We're trending below that for the reasons I mentioned earlier. If we look at Latin America as a whole, that figure is 2, which is right at just below ZPG. And then other parts of Latin America and the Caribbean are slightly above zero population growth. If you look at individual countries, let's go back to Guatemala's 2.7, Nicaragua 2.4. Those are populations that are growing. Panama 2.4. Now, just to give us a frame of reference, even though those figures for Latin America and the Caribbean are higher than the United States, they are not the highest. If we look at some countries in Africa, the total fertility rate can be as high as 6 for Somalia. So the average woman in Somalia has 6 children. That's average. Angola, the average woman in Angola has over 6 children. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, again, 6 children. There are a variety of reasons for that we can go into with great detail at a later date. So, in terms of fertility, we can see that that Latin American and Caribbean countries are higher than the United States and Canada in terms of fertility rates, but they certainly are not the highest in terms of total fertility rates in the world. And again, we can look at some other variables in this table, such as access to contraceptives, i.e. family planning. And you can see in the United States and Canada and in various parts of the Caribbean, access to contraceptives is relatively high. But in some countries, it's like, say, Belize, as you can see, only 49% of women have access to modern methods, or 51% have access to all methods of birth control. And you can see that would clearly translate into higher fertility rates and higher birth rates. You can easily see how that would translate. Okay, I want to move on to another section of the lecture. Also, when we segued, or when we left off at the end of the last unit B, we've emphasized urban landscapes. So we're going to segue into looking at urban landscapes for Latin America and the Caribbean, but just looking at global cities in general. And so the current trend is that the world's human population is becoming increasingly urbanized. In other words, that trend is moving towards where we are. Meaning the United States, at about 81, 82% urban. Up until maybe about 10 years ago or so, the majority of the world's population was still rural, but that has changed to where we're just above 50%. So if you look here at the column labeled 2015, where there's 53% of the world's population roughly is living in urban areas. So that's more than 50% of the majority. Still a lot of people in rural areas on the planet, but this is a change. This change away from rural to urban populations being rural. In Latin America, there are several of the largest cities in the world. There's Sao Paulo, Brazil, Mexico City, Mexico, at 20 million people or more. And this is from 2012. I need to update this table, obviously. Buenos Aires, Argentina is probably by now has 14 or 15 million people. So these are very large cities, but they don't have the infrastructure that the cities in the United States have. There's no real comparison. So as this trend has continued, problems have come with it. As you can see, um, the growth areas in cities in other parts of the world, including Latin America, is in what we call slums. In Latin America, these unplanned settlements are called favelas. In other parts of the world, they're called shanty towns. And these are places that don't have the amenities that we would normally associate with living in a city: clean drinking water, sanitation, and so on and so forth. If we were meeting in class, or if there were more people here, I would toss out a question. I would ask, if you're living on campus at Tennessee State University, even if you don't drink the tap water, and some of you don't drink tap water, I know this, but you shower. I don't think you shower in bottled water. I don't think anybody's doing that. You probably cook. I guess you can cook on campus somewhere. And if you have to boil eggs or boil hot dogs, I don't think you're going to do that with bottled water. You'll probably use tap water. So you don't drink the tap water, but you bathe in it and use it to prepare your food. And so if I was to ask you, if in Nashville, well, where does this water come from? What body of water does your drinking water come from in Nashville? You would correctly answer the Cumberland River, Dr. Padgett. Then if I ask you a few minutes later, well, when you flush the toilet, ultimately, where does that human waste wind up? You'd say the Cumberland River, and you might right now be grossed out by that, but it's the truth. However, in our country, we're blessed or lucky or whatever, fortunate enough to have an infrastructure that includes sanitation or a sanitary water system that either cleans the water enough that we can safely, that cleans wastewater enough that we can safely place it back into the Cumberland River and not kill everything in the river. And when we draw water out of the river, we have a system that purifies it so that it's safe to at least bathe in and cook in for those of you, or drink if you are still drinking tap water. So the question is, well, what if we were in a place that did not have this infrastructure? Well, then you can see why, as it says in this article, an estimated 1.6 million urbanites die each year due to lack of clean water and sanitation. And communities that don't have that, that is where 1/6, 1 out of every 6 people in the world lives under those conditions. So of course there's going to be people dying because they don't have access to things that we don't even think about here. You don't really think about where that water is coming from when it comes out of your shower head. Do you really think about that? And you definitely, most of us definitely don't think of where the human waste goes when we flush the toilet. We don't think about where that's going. It's just going away. Okay, so understand there's no such place as away. That waste is going somewhere and it's going into the Cumberland River. But like I said, we have protections in place. But imagine if we didn't. Imagine if all of the hundreds of thousands of people that live in Nashville, Tennessee, were not protected from all that waste that's coming out of our bodies. We would have death and disease. And the most vulnerable part of the population are, of course, children. So if we start to look at another variable, infant mortality, which I've talked about earlier, infant mortality, again, is when a baby dies before it's 1 year old or before it reaches 1 year of age. And so we see that in parts of the world where these babies don't have access to clean water, they die. They don't just get sick, they die. Okay. And so We could, in fact, we as a human family could eliminate 80% of infant mortality worldwide if we just provided people with clean drinking water and sanitation. No miracle medicines. Don't have to build more hospitals. Just clean water would prevent 80% of infant mortality deaths. Okay, so moving forward, let's discuss this topic in detail. What's happening? What are the dynamics behind what we're seeing? Well, one of the things that's contributing is the rural to urban migration. So we talked about internal migration in the United States last week, and we described the various internal migrations historically. But at present, our migration patterns are urban to urban. People move from one city to the next. A person might move from Birmingham, Alabama to New York City. A person might move from Atlanta, Georgia to Los Angeles, California. A person might move from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Tampa, Florida. In any case, we in this country move from one city to the next. In other parts of the world, people are moving from rural areas towards cities for a variety of pull and push factors. A couple of the push factors are environmentally related. So if you look at the very bottom of this screen, you'll see two terms: deforestation and desertification. Deforestation is dealt with or is discussed extensively in the textbook, specifically with regard to the nation of Brazil. And so Brazil is home to the Amazon tropical rainforest, largest continuous tropical rainforest in the world. And they are experiencing deforestation. What is deforestation? Deforestation is when we cut down trees faster than nature can replace them. That's deforestation. When we cut down trees faster than nature can replace them. Normally, we would think of wood as being a renewable natural resource. However, if you're cutting down these trees, some of these trees are hundreds of years old, 100 years old, 200 years old. If we cut down a tree that reaches maturity at 100 years, we're not going to get that. We're not going to be alive, most of us, if we plant a new tree and wait for it to grow. We're not going to be around to see it. Okay, so that is not a renewable resource per se within a human lifetime. Why deforestation? Well, some of the wood from tropical rainforests is very valuable. It's used in furniture. It's used in musical instruments. And so in many cases, that wood is extracted from forests. Also, there is the land use issue. Forests are being cleared to make room for mines, gold mines. Forests are being cleared to make room for livestock agricultural production, like large cattle ranches, for instance. So the trees are cut away, burned away, whatever, and in come either the miners, in come the livestock ranchers, and just take over, destroy that ecosystem. The problem with clearing away all those trees is that the soil that supports those trees was designed for trees, not livestock, not row crops. And so when the land is turned over from forest to some form of crop field or grazeland or grazing land, the soil is ruined. So when human beings mismanage soil like that and render it unable to support plant life adequately, that's called deforestation. Desertification. Desertification. So desertification simply means when human beings ruin soil through poor practices. We overgraze. We plant crops that are incompatible with the soil type. That's what we do as humans. That's called desertification. So desertification is not literally where land turns into a desert. Okay. It's when we ruin soil to the point that you can't grow anything. So you can imagine in a rural area of Brazil or Argentina or wherever, if a family is unable to feed itself due to soil ruination or deforestation, that family is obviously going to have to leave and be pushed out of that area. Um, and we have to understand that a lot of families, a lot of people live in Latin America and survive on subsistence farming, which means they might have a garden plot or what have you, and that's what they eat. There's no Kroger, there's no Publix, there's no Winn-Dixie for them to go to. They will, what they grow is what they eat. If there's a problem, if something happens so that their garden or crop field is unable to produce food, they have to leave or starve. And then we add into that the processes associated with climate change and climate change and global warming, and that problem of desertification is exacerbated by those two variables. And so we can see how people might move out of these rural areas where they have very little chances of survival if they don't move. And oftentimes the cities appear to be places that offer opportunity, economic opportunity. So that would be the pull factor for a person migrating to a city. It's greater economic opportunity. Another important pull factor that pulls people to cities is access to healthcare. I was mentioning healthcare earlier today, how we are a very dense network of healthcare providers in this country. In other parts of the world, a person might have to walk 200 or 300 miles just to get to a clinic. And so people might be, I don't want to say encouraged, but they might be forced to migrate if they fall ill and the local clinic is unable to do anything for them, or if a child falls ill. The family will move to a large city in hopes of getting into a medical clinic or hospital in that city. So there are a variety of pull and push factors that have resulted in rapid urban population growth worldwide and also in Latin America and the Caribbean. Unfortunately, when these throngs of individuals reach cities, they don't always get what they expect. Housing, no housing, water, no clean water, sanitation, no sanitation, job, no job. A lot of things aren't as they don't go the way they expect when people move to these cities. They wind up in favelas, they wind up in shanty towns, and essentially there's not enough housing, not enough water, not enough of anything to go around. So when human population exceeds the ability of a city's infrastructure to support that population, that is called over-urbanization. Again, over-urbanization is when human population exceeds the capacity of a city to support it. So there's too many people, not enough housing. Too many people, not enough water supply. Too many people, not enough sanitation. Too many people, not enough jobs, whatever. That's called over-urbanization. And that's what's happening now. And the result are extremely chronic health issues, water supply issues, waste management issues, so on and so forth. And that's happening all over the world and also in Latin America. So here's a favela in Brazil. Favela is an unplanned settlement, or this is another word for slum. This is probably a kind of nice favela here, but still The homes are not constructed in a traditional means of where one might go to a builder. Notice the homes are up in the hills. So these are poor people in Latin America live up in the hills like this. That's the opposite of our situation here in the United States. In the United States, if you want to see wealthy people, other than so-called hillbillies, but in most cases, if you go to Los Angeles or anywhere and you look up, you see $1 million, $10 million homes overlooking the city. That's where the wealthy live. Poor people in this country live down in the bottoms, down on the other side of the tracks, in the lowlands, right? That's where poor people live in this country. But in Latin America and the Caribbean, poor people live in the hills. And later on, we'll talk about how this region is in a tropical climate, tropical, permanently rainy, in some cases, climate where there's lots of rain, much, and not to mention tropical storms, hurricanes that visit this region. And you can imagine if this slope was to become liquefied in terms of soil liquefaction, there would be a mudslide. There would be a landslide. These people's homes would slide right down the side of this hill, and many people would be killed. And so we have seen that with Hurricane Mitch, and we've seen other examples of where people in Latin America have died as a result of being washed away in a storm because they were living in these very exposed and vulnerable favelas. Now, this is obviously not in Latin America, but this is just an image from a shanty town in Africa, just to give you an idea. Like I said, the one before this previous slide, this is a pretty nice favela, but this one is very is an example of how people live in many places in the world, living in shacks that they build themselves out of materials they find. In many cases, there might be 10 or 11 people in one of these shacks, not 2 or 3. Multiple generations living basically in these shacks. If you notice this pool of water here, first thing you might notice is all the trash. And you might ask yourself, well, do these people have any pride in their community? Why don't they pick up the trash? Well, where are they going to put it? There's no trash collection service coming through here. There's no trash truck coming through here to pick up the trash like we have in our neighborhood, right? In our neighborhoods here. So that's an immediate and obvious health problem. Then the water, who knows where that water is coming from? It could be connected directly to a place where people are using the bathroom, right? And there it is, right there in front of your house. And so you might ask, well, how these people don't notice that? Well, after a while, if you live in a certain environment, people become nose blind. It might be just you don't even notice the smell. If we were to walk through here, we might notice the smell immediately and go, whoa, 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 what's that? But other people might not. So this is just an example of housing in other parts of the world. I'm going to end here. I'm picking up from here next time, but I just want you to just take a look at this when you get a chance. This is a good idea of how differently we live in this world, where we get up in the morning, don't even think about it, turn the tap, get water. In other parts of the world, getting water is work. And it takes a lot of time just to get water. And so we'll pick it up from here next time as we further explore Unit C, Latin America and the Caribbean. So I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to change the looking at it on the screen just to review. Again, for this week, share screen. Again, for this week, you have article review 4 due tonight, research quiz B due on Friday, and the article review 5 is due next Monday, and you'll have another quiz starting on Monday covering the lecture material this week. So thank you very much for watching this recording. If you have any questions, please let me know as soon as you can.